So you are living day in and day out invisible selling, right? Whether
Yes.
you are eating, whether you're sleeping, whether you're talking to people or you're watching movies, I'm sure your mind is on a 24/7. So you must be coming across a lot of examples in your daily life, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. As Edward de Bono said, you can't keep two pieces of data in your brain in an isolated way. Okay, the brain is going to make some connection. So my brain is constantly looking at something and saying, okay, which theory of invisible selling?
You're connecting two and two.
Yes, yes.
So do you want to share some interesting daily life example?
Sure. So I think there was a wonderful movie. I really enjoyed it. It was called Special 26. I think it was made by Neeraj Pandey. It had Akshay Kumar and Anupam Kher. Now this was based on a real life incident which is so unbelievable that you think it's not a credible story at all. A prominent jeweler was raided by fake CBI. Okay, so there's this jewelry store. Some guys just walk in an authoritative way. They flash their ID papers and say, we are from the CBI and we're going to confiscate your stuff because it's a raid. It wasn't a raid, it was a theft. I believe the jewelry has still not been traced back. Now, this would never happen if the people from the jewelry store had checked the documents of the so-called CBI stuff. Because the full form of CBI is Central Bureau of Investigation.
And what did they write?
And what these guys had written in the fake documents was Central Bureau of Intelligence.
And such a big error was not even noticed.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
what does this go to show?
This goes to show that in the presence of an authority figure, even if it's a fake authority figure who is very convincing, people stop using their brains.
Only that time?
That's one of the times when they stop using their brains. More specifically, they stop using the PFC. Okay, PFC is prefrontal cortex. That's the part of the brain that is into logical thinking, that's into evaluation, that's into executive decision making. And that just goes for a toss. That just goes to sleep when people are in the presence of an authority. So they blindly listen to what an authority has to say. They believe in authority, and plenty of companies use this. Some of them do it the right way, some of them do it the wrong way to get people to buy their products and services. Another chilling story, real story about this is a series of experiments conducted by a psychologist called Stanley Milgram. And this is really crazy. It's even more unbelievable than the first story. So Stanley Milgram got people into a lab. He put out some ads saying that we need you to do something basic for a few psychological experiments that we're doing, and you'll be paid a certain number of dollars per hour for this. People land up at a fake lab. They don't know it's fake. There is the head of the lab. The head of the lab is a fake. There is this guy, this genuine person who's seen the ad and come in. Let's call him the teacher. And then there was a fake learner. Okay, so the three parties, the fake head, the real teacher, and the fake student. The real teacher was instructed to give tests to the fake student. The fake student was given some piece of information to memorize. The fake teacher was testing the learner for his recall. The learner was a fake. The learner was told to get his answers wrong. The teacher was instructed to give the learner electrical shocks. When the learner got something wrong, he got all of them wrong. Now, obviously, there were fake shocks. At the same time, the teacher didn't know that. The intensity of shocks was increased
With every mistake.
till it reached a fatal level of 440 volts. So obviously the real teacher was very hesitant. He was very nervous. He was very confused. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know whether to continue or let the learners go. Some of the learners pleaded to be let off, and the real teacher asked the fake head, "What should I do?" They don't want to be in the experiment anymore, so they let them go. In spite of all this, most people, about 60 to 65% of the people, continue to give shocks beyond the fatal level. And this is absolutely incredible. It's absolutely unbelievable that people will do that. But that's the extent to which they get influenced by a figure of authority. In this case, a fake one. And plenty of companies, again, the smartest companies in the world, they know how to use this very well. So Oral-B advertises itself by saying this is a brand that most dentists use themselves. And a dentist obviously is an authority. If most dentists are using this, dentists are an authoritative figure, and this must be a good product. That's the logic that would go in a client's minds, because of which L'Oreal would be able to sell more of its products. And so plenty of guys use it. There is a fantastic example in Bob Chalmey's book. There is a real estate firm, and in the old days, there used to be a receptionist. People used to call in, and the receptionist used to connect that person to the right person. So somebody used to call in, he would say, "I want to take property on rent." And the receptionist would say, "Okay, I'll connect you to John, please speak here." Somebody would say, "I want a commercial property." She would say, "Okay, I'll connect you to Smith, please speak here." Now, after utilizing and understanding this authority strategy, they changed the script. So if somebody would call for, let's say, leasing a property, the receptionist would say, "Okay, I'm going to connect you to Tom," and Tom has 50 years of experience in leasing properties. And analysis was done. The number of signed contracts actually went up by 15%. So that's how powerful it is. An authority can be conveyed by a person's qualifications. So doctors, the smartest doctors in the world, and researchers prove that doctors in the world who have their degrees on their walls tend to be perceived as far better doctors. They tend to earn more. So that's one way in which authority can be communicated. The other way in which authority can be communicated or can be got is by being skillful. So this gentleman in the real estate company may not have a degree in understanding how real estate works, but since he's been in the business for 15 years, he's perceived to be skillful in that area. So those are two ways in which people can get authority in the eyes of the public, either a certification or skills or knowledge about a particular area. I have used this quite a lot. I have mentioned on my website, for instance, that I have been trained by the smartest brains in the world, like Tony Buzan in mind mapping, Edward Bonham in lateral thinking, Michael Porter in strategic thinking, David Allen in productivity and GTD, and various other people. So this then gets me to be perceived as an authority on those subjects, and I tend to use that in my profession in a very beneficial way.
So I have a question. What if someone has just started new and they don't have these number of years of experience coming from the back?
Right.
So then how can I use this particular strategy?
Okay, try to find out some way in which you can communicate your expertise or your passion or some special thing that you've done that others in that area may not have done. So if you haven't got any experience but you've got great marks in a particular subject in school or college, then talk about that. If you have met a big authority in that field and you had interactions with him, then you can probably write a blog about your learnings from him. If you manage to interview him, then put out your interview on YouTube. So now you are associating yourself with that subject. And it's surprising plenty of people just don't do that. So for example, if you look at what most people are putting on their social media pages, you just don't see any connection between what that person is saying and what he's actually doing. So you look at somebody, for example, who may be an architect, Now, if and let's talk about just LinkedIn for lack of time. So, if there's an architect on LinkedIn and at least 50% of his posts don't relate to architecture, they may be his own thoughts, they might be thoughts of architects that he respects. Something related to architecture is not there, then you don't see the association with that subject, and you think, okay, he's an architect, but he's probably not very skillful. So that's another way of showing authority, that you're passionate about a subject. If you're passionate about a subject and you're following that subject a lot, then people presume that you know something about the subject, then they presume you're an authority. So this is one of the ways in which you can do it. Okay, I forgot one point. Okay, one of the best ways to communicate authority is to get somebody else to give you a testimonial. Right? If there is nobody else to give you a testimonial, if you are to stand up, for example, in front of the crowd and there is nobody else to introduce you, then you obviously have to introduce yourself. And you got to then talk about your achievements and your progress. But if you do have somebody else to endorse you, to introduce you, then it is much more powerful. The credibility associated with your achievements, with your authority is much, much higher. This is such a powerful strategy that even if I have a PR guy and I introduce him as my PR guy and everybody knows that I'm paying him to make me look good, in spite of that, they take his words seriously. So it's crazy, the mysteries of the human brain never stop.
Open fake authority also works.
I'm not at all recommending that you should be a fake authority. I'm saying even if you're a real authority and you have a PR agent. Now, everybody knows the job of the PR agent is to do nothing but promote me. And then some people would think that he is going over the top because he's paid to promote me. But that doesn't tend to happen. People tend to take this PR agent very seriously, in spite of the obvious conflict of interest. So, yeah, obviously you got to be careful of fake authorities out there. You should use the strategy in the right way, and that's what we've discussed so far.